welcome to a Big Ten game recall. We are excited to be breaking down the only Big Ten tournament championship in Purdue history today. 2009 Big Ten basketball tournament. Purdue beats Ohio State to win the school's only Big Ten tournament championship. Chris Kramer and Robbie Hummel both on that team, and they're joining us here on this Big Ten game recall. So let's get into this game. Tip-off, Conseco Fieldhouse. Robbie, did it feel like a court advantage for you guys in Indianapolis?
We definitely had a very pro-Purdue crowd. I really thought that the day before we played Illinois, and they always travel really well, especially to Indianapolis, but you could tell today that we really had a lot of people that had gotten tickets. I remember actually, the thing I remember most is the bus ride over. I remember riding the bus over and just seeing, you know how Indianapolis is for this event. The restaurants are there, the hotels are there. It's all right there where you can walk, and the streets were just filled with Purdue people. It was really, really cool to come out there and see that we were getting that kind of support.
Chris, when you got into this game, and as you watched this thing back with us, a 2-0 start for the Boilermakers as defense turns into offense, what was the main goal going into this game against Ohio State? It's got to be difficult when you're playing a team for the third time, especially second time in just 2 weeks.
Yeah, it is, especially the way that we won, 2 weeks before this. And it was so much on the line. We knew that we had to come out, and for us, we knew we were going to find ways to score. We had great pieces, but we had to learn or find ways to stop them defensively. They have great players with Turner and Buford, and then John Diebler. They were really deep. So the biggest thing for us was defensively.
Well, and you see defense and rebounding have shown up on these first two plays in this series. You get the offensive rebound a moment ago. Does the Boilermakers off of a Hummel miss, I believe. I was told not to mention any of the Hummel misses in this game, but there's Robbie.
And look at that defense right there. I will say this is like the worst possible matchup for me defensively ever because they're so small. Kramer's got to guard Evan Turner. Etuan's got to guard William Buford. Right now we've got Lewis Jackson in the game, so he probably has to be on P.J. Hill, and I have to guard John Diebler, which is not good. If I'm having to chase guys off screens, that is a terrible matchup for us, and I think you're going to see it a lot in this game where bad things are happening for us in that regard.
Bad things happening offensively until this play because you row as a team before you get to the rim there and get the 7-5 advantage. But no surprise, this is a low-scoring game to start, is it? These two teams, both good defensively, both aggressive, both physical teams. Not a surprise 6 minutes in to only see 12 points on the board.
No, and I think, too, there's definitely a settling in factor for these types of games where you're kind of trying to find your rhythm. You're trying to kind of shake out the nerves because there definitely is that. You're playing for a Big Ten championship, and I think when you play, you think about all the really good teams and players that never got to play in the Big Ten tournament championship or even play for a Big Ten title. So there's certainly something to be said for kind of feeling the game out as well.
Chris, was it important for you, having never had a tournament championship in Purdue? Was that something you thought about going into this game, that you guys could be the first?
It is definitely. It was very important for us. It was something kind of solidify us as a group, something that, Purdue's never done before. And, we had an unbelievable team. We had so many great pieces. So just something for us to enjoy together and just to, really solidify us and put our name in the Purdue history books.
Turnover there, going the other way. And there's Robbie Hummel with the rejection, soaring in for the block to start the other way. Who's Kramer, player of the year twice in this league?
That's a miracle right there. That was
the only block you ever had.
Only block in history.
What's the mindset right now? You guys have settled into this game. You're halfway through this first half. The crowd has settled in a little bit. How long does it take, Chris, Robbie, both of you guys, to feel comfortable on a stage like this?
Go ahead, Rob.
I always feel like it's really the first couple minutes. You have super amounts of nerves at tip-off, and then as you kind of settle in and you kind of get a flow for the game, it kind of goes away. But it's definitely different when there's a title on the line. And I just think in playing these guys, we lost to them in Columbus the year before, and it cost us winning the Big Ten in the regular season. So there was something extra on the line in terms of that as well with payback. We really struggled guarding Evan Turner, and I thought we did a really good job on him in this game, even though he gets his points, but just making him less efficient.
Really good ball movement on that series, Robbie, from your Boilermaker offense, because that Ohio State defense was swarming at almost every pass, and you guys were able to stay with it and continue to move it around and find that open shot. This is one of your better offensive series, isn't it? Just the patience against this set?
Yeah, and you look at how we keep overloading the zone. Like you're putting almost 4 guys on that one side, and they just can't cover it. It's really good zone offense. And again, I think our group, the thing that stands out to me about it was we were so unselfish. No one cared who scored. No one cared who got the accolades. It was all about winning. And that's a possession right there where you look at that and you'd say, man, that's a team that's really together and really enjoys playing with one another.
And you saw Juwan Johnson ending with his 6th point of the game on that bucket. He ended with 16 in this game. And you talk about the depth that Ohio State had, but Chris, you guys had, along with the unselfishness that Robbie talks about, you guys had a lot of offensive weapons as well on this squad.
Yeah, we really did. We came off the bench with Keaton Grant, who the year before was a starter, can really shoot the ball, can attack. And then you talk about E'Twaun, Robbie, and Juwan. I mean, with those 3 guys, the rest of our role essentially was to put them in positions to be successful when they were open, get them the ball, because, they were going to be the ones that were going to, take us to win games and take us to where, Purdue's never been, winning this Big Ten championship.
Juwan with 9 at this point in the game, and 18-16 for Purdue. And Robbie, it was you in this game end up with 9 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, kind of a jack of all trades kind of game for you. But it was for your other 2 superstar scorers, Juwan and E'Twaun. It was really a tale of 2 different halves. Juwan led the way in the first half, and then E'Twaun, we'll see later on, really gets it going in the second half.
E'Twaun, who to me is one of the underrated players of this era of the Big Ten.
Not a big surprise to see this going back and forth between both of these 2 squads, 2 very evenly matched. And people forget this years later, but this by no means was anybody's projected matchup for this Big Ten tournament championship. Neither one of you were really expected to be here based on seed, the 3 versus the 5, I believe.
I want to say we were close to the 2, though. It was a tiebreaker. So it wasn't like we were super far out of that. Michigan State ran with the league this year. I think, as to your point about the game being low scoring, I think both teams are a little tired. You play your 3rd game in 3 days, and it just maybe outside of your Thanksgiving event, if you play, really good defense there by us. Outside of Thanksgiving, you're not going to see this type of deal. I'd like to mention that Chris Kramer is guarding Evan Turner, but not really guarding him right now.
Yeah, that was just unbelievable defense, putting pressure and just saying, here you go, right down Main Street.
I will say, though, Evan was a tough cover because he got super calls in the Big Ten. I don't know what he had given Eddie Hightower and those guys, but for whatever reason, he always got calls in our games.
Good look there in the corner for the 3, and Purdue on top with 4:20 remaining in this first half. Rewatch the 2009 Big Ten Tournament Championship with Robbie Hummel and Chris Kramer, 2 members of that championship team. Chris, of course, twice Defensive Player of the Year in the league. Robbie Hummel ended up being the tournament most outstanding player. You mentioned, Robbie, that you thought both teams were a little tired. One thing that sometimes shows up with tired teams is sloppy ball handling. You guys were really good taking care of the basketball on this whole tournament. 7 overs in just 3 games total. That's pretty impressive for a team fighting perhaps a little late fatigue in this thing.
Yeah, and I think what Chris said earlier is super accurate. I think the fact that we weren't necessarily a great rebounding team. We were much better the year after because I think we were a year older, a year stronger. And you see me get torched again. But I totally agree with him.
Let's go back to that.
We were a team that prided ourselves on not turning the basketball over and kind of canceling out that rebounding margin. I'm so disgraced at what I'm doing off the basketball right there because my only job is to trail John Dietler. Honestly, I would be interested to hear what Coach Painter would say about now if we're with a 3-guard lineup of Keaton Grant, Chris Kramer, E'Twaun Moore, why not put me on like PJ Hill? Like we wouldn't be able to jam the basketball, so you'd lose that pressure. But I'd put me on PJ Hill and be like, help on everybody. Now you got CK guarding Evan, you've got either Etwan or KG guarding Diebler, and you've got the last guard of ours on William Buford. That would take me out of the equation, which I wish he had done.
Well, you see, Diebler has gotten hot late in this first half, hits a couple of threes, and the Buckeyes up by 5, trying to find a little bit of magic late for Purdue, unable to connect on anything there, and a halftime score of 30-25, Ohio State. So you guys are headed to the locker room. You're down by 5, Big Ten tournament championship. Chris, take us anything you can remember in that locker room. I mean, it's years later, and the kids aren't watching this. What was Coach Painter's commentary in that locker room?
At this point, I would say, he's not overly mad at, we're down 5. We played pretty well. We had some good movement. We missed some shots. We have to find a way to get each one more involved, take the pressure off of JJ. But defensively, we're doing a pretty good job. I mean, we held Ohio State to 30 points. Defensively not terrible, but, we have to find ways to score the basketball if we want to win this game.
I'll add on to that. I can't believe I remember this. And, Chris, tell me if you remember this. Coach Payne was super positive, but before he got in there, and I think we were pretty positive because we got good shots. We just hadn't made them. Our defense was, for the most part, pretty good. We almost had a near – not fight, but a super heavy argument over someone farting in the locker room. It was – I'm not going to name names of who it was, but I do remember that people were legitimately yelling at each other at halftime of the Big Ten tournament final. And people are yelling at each other about somebody who farted in the locker room.
What was the argument about? Like, you did it, no, you did it, that kind of argument?
It was about who did it. It was almost surreal. I do remember being like, we are so screwed. Like, if we're yelling about this, we have no chance to win this game in the second half. But I was like, it's over.
But
Chris,
it's almost like
this at all?
I do remember, and it's almost like that argument kind of like got us away for a second. Like it let everyone kind of regroup, not really think about the game for that few minutes. And then Coach Painter walks in, and everyone's like, "All right, we're back. Let's focus again." And for whatever reason, in the second half, we played much better than we did in the first.
So we have to credit the guy who did it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for doing that. We could come together.
Who knew that flatulence would play such a big role in Purdue claiming its only Big Ten tournament championship in school history? So we roll through the half, 30-25 at halftime. Ohio State goes in with the 5-point lead. You guys come out. Your sinuses are clear. It's a 5-point game, sir. 5-point game with 1 minute gone in this second half. Robbie, what are you looking to do here to get a good start in this second half outside of getting Etwan involved, as he's certainly going to do here a lot in this second half?
Well, I think against their zone, whether it's 1-1 or 2-3, we're looking to move it. We're looking to overload it. And I think in the second half, you'll start to see us overload the ball screen, the zone with more of a pick and roll approach. And it really becomes effective. I thought in the first half it was more with cutters. And now you're going to see us use pick and roll to really exploit their zone. Oh, here we go again. I would honestly assume that if we went big, if Lewis Jackson's not in the game, I really believe I would guard PJ Hill.
I agree. Just pack it in, help on anything.
And anything that he 100%. Makes, you literally shake his hand. Like he was more of a guy that would facilitate, and I'm not even sure he brought the ball up that much. Like, because right now it's Jeremy Simmons in the game, but he's just there to get them in their offense and then let Evan go to work, or Diebler, who's killing me right now.
So Ohio State comes up empty on this possession. You guys are on the run now, a little transition opportunity for Purdue, and an open look in the corner that's not able to go, but Johnny on the spot for the rebound and 2 points. Not bad, 1 point game at this point.
Yeah, we really kind of hung in there because we're not like making shots at a high level, but we've found some ways to score and get stops, and I think it's interesting to watch the way that Chris is guarding Evan Turner right now. And, we're going over almost every ball screen, which if you watch the next year, I remember when we played them in Columbus, we stopped going over. We just started going under. We were like, we'll live with him making perimeter shots. And, like, right there, you were playing right into his hand. Like, we ended up getting an offensive foul there, but, like, we should make Evan Turner beat us at the three-point line. That's what we eventually do, but we did it in this game.
But what did it mean to you? Was it a big deal to be tournament most outstanding player as you were in this tournament?
I honestly didn't care. All I wanted to do was win. I think that the main goal was to have success, and I think that whether that was Chris, myself, Etuan, Jawan, Keaton Grant, Lewis Jackson, whoever, I think we all understood that if we won games, the accolades would come. And whoever got them, great. But I just think that that's what was so cool about playing with this team. And honestly, this is the most fun group I've ever played basketball with. I had a great high school team. Our group here was obviously great. My pro teams weren't maybe always the best, but as a group playing basketball, this was a really fun to be a part of.
We're seeing in this second half Etuan Moore starting to find his range, find his rhythm. What was it about Etuan, Robbie, that made him, A, a good teammate, and B, a dangerous guy when you were trying to play against him in the Big Ten or elsewhere?
What's funny, I played with Etuan since high school. And, unfortunately, CK found out our AU team was he found out the hard way in Fort Wayne. No, he's a great teammate. He's a good guy, and he's incredibly intelligent. So he's a guy that I think, especially as he's become a pro, has really understood what he needs to do to be successful. At this point in his career, he's more of a scorer. And that's what he was in high school. That's what he is here. He's doing a really good job of finding things in transition, moving without the basketball right now. But, Etuan, I think the thing that separated him was his confidence and his ability to score. He always felt like I think he had an advantage. And also he's incredibly blessed with huge hands and super long arms. Like, he'd get rebounds where you'd be like, how did he get that over the top of me? He's 6'4", but he's got a wingspan that's like 7'1". So he's certainly blessed in that area, but, man, his mid-range is great. He can really shoot the basketball. And the coolest thing about Etuan to me is that the first time I played Etuan Moore was at a middle school AU tournament in 7th grade, and he was the best post player I'd ever seen. Like, we had two guys that were super physically mature for their age, and my AU team at that point was pretty good and winning, like, state championships, and which at that point, who cares? But we were one of the better teams in the state of Indiana. At that point, we had these two really mature kids that were huge for their age, and each one he would give us buckets, and it was like nobody scores like this on these guys. This guy must be really good. And I saw him as a freshman playing the regional as a freshman against a really good LaPorte team, and he had like 25. So I was like, all right, it's not just us. This dude's just really good. He stopped growing, and when you see that happen a lot of the time those guys fade out. But he became, he understood, I'm going to not grow again. And, yeah, I can use this post-up deal to my advantage against guards, but I need to develop some perimeter skills. And he really did, to the point where now he's, going on his 10th year in the NBA.
And he scored 9 points in the last 2.5 minutes of this game. Chris, I feel like I would be leaving the story on the table if I didn't follow up with Robbie's AAU game comment. I mean, walk us through this. I mean, Robbie's nodding his head, so clearly something good happened for Robbie Hummel on this.
Lead us through, Chris. Let's hear about this.
I mean, let's be honest. Robbie might have been on the team, but Etuan won the championship. Etuan had all the pressure on his back. He was carrying the team. But, yeah, they beat us in Speece Fieldhouse for, I don't know, it was some championship. I don't remember, but –
yeah,
they got us.
Like, we've never heard of these dudes. We're just going to come out and kill.
I feel like for you it's some championship I don't remember, and for Robbie Hummel it's the story he tells people every night as he trips off.
The AAU National Championships is what it was, I Fort Wayne.
Yeah, the Fort Wayne edition of the National Championship.
Many consider that to be the true national championship, the Fort Wayne edition.
Yes, very much so.
Exactly.
It's a 9 lead. You start to pull away in this one midway through this second half. Confidence had to be super high right now. Etuan obviously gotten off to an amazing first half of this second half start. You guys are defending. Where's this confidence level right now against this Buckeye team?
Well, I think it was really high until we saw that I am now guarding Evan Turner. Like, we're trying everybody, and that has to really tank the confidence because I have no chance to guard this dude. At the same time, though, we're finally making some shots, so I think that certainly has helped. But we're also really moving the basketball. Like, we're getting great looks.
Whoa, the bank open
glass
for Chris Kramer.
Love it. Oh, they were trapped the ball screen.
About to see Robbie Hummel defensively shine here.
No. We're seeing Chris Kramer shine.
Defensively, which is so often in this league, and a good finish there at the rim. 9-point advantage again for Purdue. Gotta like that number, Chris. 8 assists and just 2 turnovers in the half for Purdue.
Yeah, and like I said before, that's something we really prided ourselves on, and especially when they're in this zone, we just had to move the ball, get them moving, and once we got the ball to the middle or use our misdirection, we got open shots, and there really wasn't much need for us to kind of be risky, make the risky play. We knew if we moved the basketball, we would find an open shot, and we did that pretty successfully in the second half.
Now, lest you think
right there, you're open, dude. You should let it fly. Oh, I get you.
Hey, man.
58-53, 2.5 to go. You remember about the final thoughts going down the stretch? Coach Katie is obviously aghast as to what's going on here.
Shocker there. I just remember thinking, like, basically at the under 4 timeout, like, one more segment and we are champions of the Big Ten Conference. Like, we have got to just make free throws, take care of the ball, get a couple stops, and we're going to win the game. That's a lot easier said than done, though, when you're guarding the guy that's going to be the National Player of the Year the next season.
Purdue with the 4-point advantage, 2:20 to go. Do you feel, Chris, moments like this, the moment? I mean, does that add on to in the act of playing, so it never really sits with it, oh my gosh, the school has never done this before, and you look to the sideline and Coach Katie's losing his mind about something, and you see all this, you feel the pressure of the crowd. Does it ever enter your thoughts on the court?
At this point, I don't think so. At this point, we obviously know what's on the line, but we know, a great team like Ohio State, if we miss some shots or we turn the basketball over, this game can change really quickly. So at this point, we're just trying to, hang on, trying to build the lead as much as we can, which, as you'll see is, we struggle doing it for a little bit, but essentially we win. But, we knew that it was going to come down to getting stops and then just not turning the basketball over.
Kevin, can we rewind that? I want to follow all the places that Kramer was right there.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous. Like, he is literally with Evan Turner.
Right there.
Now he's in the back to block Dallas Lauderdale, and now he's getting out to Diebler, and now he's guarding P.J. Hill. Like, the effort to do that is so high level, and it's a skill to play hard. It really is.
I think at this point it's just, we know we're so close, and, it's anything we can do, to get a stop, to get the basketball. I'm trying to do everything in my power because I know all the other guys are doing the same. And, I think, we did a good job of kind of holding each other accountable and, pushing each other to, not leave anything left in the tank.
And I will say right here, this is a big moment. Keaton Grant getting that shot off and getting to see one go in. His last, 3 or 4 shots were not good. Like, he might have even airballed one or it hit the side of the backboard. But the fact that he got to timeout gets called and get to see one go in, and now, not that I have anything, I haven't seen this game or anything, but I have a feeling there's a big one here coming in.
Yeah, I feel like there's a possibility. We'll call this blatant foreshadowing for a game that occurred 11 years ago.
Yeah. But that's one of those things where you're like, man, you need Kevin Garnett to jump up there and block the shot before it goes in so he doesn't get some confidence from a meaningless shot like that.
So clinging to the 3-point lead And then that bucket. I mean, you got to go back to this again because biggest bucket of this tournament for Purdue, right? I mean, the moment the shot clock starting to wind, the crowd, you feel all this pressure, and then bang, right there.
They were going under him, and it's basically the same shot that he just took going into that timeout. So he had confidence, and I said this earlier, but Keaton Grant, for whatever reason, like he always made big shots. He was a super clutch player.
61-58, and the Buckeyes, of course, are going to bring pressure.
Thank God Chris Kramer came to the ball. Throwing the ball in that position is terrifying because you're trying to get the ball in. You don't want to get a 5-second count. And there's a lot of times guys don't want it. Like guys do not want the basketball on that point. Obviously Chris did, and he steps into the play here and wins the game for us.
How about the selfishness to keep the ball and not pass it back to you?
Oh, we just not turn it over. I knew you were going to make it, so it was fine. It was all good.
So there's Chris gets free, gets the inbound from a very nervous Robbie Hummel.
I remember right here, this is so funny. For whatever reason, after he makes the first one, I look up at my dad in the stands. He's sitting next to Ryan Smith's dad. Ryan's dad was a high school coach in Ohio for 30 years, like forever. And I make eye contact with him, and Ryan's dad is screaming at me that John Diebler's a shooter. And it's like, you don't think I've figured that out by now? Of course, all afternoon. Then I'm never going to figure it out. But it was hilarious because he coached in Ohio. John's an Ohio kid. And it was just funny that he was yelling at me that Diebler's a shooter as he's totally scorched earth me today.
I'd have been yelling at you that Evan Turner was a scorer.
Exactly.
Speaking of Evan Turner, looking against Chris Kramer. 3 not going to go. There's Kramer for the rebound. There's a foul. There's 4 seconds to go. Now you know it, right? Now you know you're Big Ten champions.
Yeah, I will say, like outside of Keaton's shot, CK has made just about every play. He's forced that turnover. He's gotten rebounds. He's made free throws. Like you talk about a guy that it might not show up in the box score. I don't know what Kramer's stats were here, but man, he just made winning play after winning play after winning play here in this game.
6 points, 4 steals, 3 blocks, 4 rebounds. Kramer, Robbie Hummel, and Purdue, the Big Ten champion. First one and only tournament championship in school history. I mean, when you think back to that moment, that embrace, that grin, I mean, those stay with you, don't they? Those kind of moments in sport, no matter how many great moments you have, no matter how long your career is or where you play, it's moments that stay with you.
Yeah, and I have goosebumps looking at that. Like it's just, you remember the roars of the crowd, you remember the pure joy, and that's what's cool about these events is like where when you win things like this, it's the purest form of joy you can have in sports, and it's about a group coming together and getting to play together and you have a common goal. You know, we always say we want to be Big Ten champs. We want to go to the Final Four. And this is kind of the first step towards doing that.
But like you said, just the purest of joy for us as players, the fans. The environment was unbelievable, and then just going into the celebration suite to watch the selection show as a champion, not going in there with like a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth to watch. I'm like, yeah, we were runners up of the Big Ten, and figuring out where you're going to go is so much better being on the winning side.
Man, it's one of my favorite days of my playing career. It was honestly so awesome to win this tournament.